So, as I get deeper into this, you know, I think I've flubbed this up. So, fine, that's alright. I scraped off the excess. I laid some toilet paper on it to withdraw the oil and the excess pigment. But that, you know, obviously that color is still there to some degree. It's not that I don't have options. My problem now is that I have too many options. So I'm going to go, well, okay, I'm doing this one thing at a time. I decided to take some of this orange and put it over to this side to make this a little more important. I felt that this was somehow too much of a strange band. I may take some of this and incur, you know, put a few strokes of these colors in here. We'll see. It's one step at a time, very slow. I'm really enjoying it, but it's more of a leisure activity than a job at the moment, which is what oil painting ideally would be. It is for most people. Okay, this intermission is brought to you by my palette. I had a lot of questions that maybe more specific questions, but I'm just going to give you a general overview of what I have here. For one thing, this palette is, I'm pretty sure it's marine plywood. Well, it's like marine plywood because there are no voids as far as I can tell within the plywood. Knots have all been filled in. And then once, you know, it's 3/8 inch thick, it's almost as though once the plywood was made, they actually laminated paper on one side of it. I don't know what kind of paper, I don't know. I don't remember the name of this stuff. This is a long time ago that I got it. So I built this whole setup using that plywood, and or this surface using that plywood. Now I've got it attached to the sides, screwed into the sides of my easel, and I could easily actually modify that so that I could unhook it from the easel, raise it up or raise it down for when I have to stand up or what have you. Or if I have a large painting that I want to lower too far, and then I can even drop this or take it off. Haven't done that mostly because I'm lazy. Anyway, okay, down to cleaning the surface of this. The first thing I did once I had built this, before I put any paint on it at all, I soaked the entire top of it and edges with linseed oil everywhere. Okay, I did put a bit of molding along this side to keep things from falling off. And here's my turpentine or paint thinner or mineral spirits, whatever you want to use. Here's my linseed oil, and I screwed in a little bump stop there too, so that if I got, you know, for some reason a little too passionate with my brush cleaning or dipping, I wouldn't push them off of my palette. And it provided a nice little niche to lay in my little bits of charcoal here as well. Okay, back to the surface. So I soaked it all with linseed oil, and I let that soak in, and then I reapplied it and reapplied it. I think I really had to do it 3 times before it became saturated. Once it was saturated, I didn't let it dry. I just wiped off the excess, and then I set out my oil paints. Now, I set my oil paints. You can see where I started, or where I laid these oil paints out in the first place. About, well, the better part of 28 years ago. Actually, it's probably more like 25 years ago, 24 years ago is when I even got the easel. So somewhere around there, but it's been a while. See, I started with my titanium white way out here, and I started with these colors back here. And, you know, burnt sienna back here, alizarin crimson back here, cad red. I think my cad red used to be over here somewhere. Usually that's where it is. It's been buried long since. Cobalt blue was out here. Ultramarine blue was out here. Raw umber was out here. Now these colors, this is Viridian green. This is quinacridone magenta. This is cad medium deep, cad yellow deep, sorry, and this is cad orange deep. which I almost never use. That's why now I have it set on the second tier behind my main colors, right? This I rarely use. This I rarely use. That I rarely use. These I rarely use. But that is to say, I initially started with these colors way out here so that I would have a large mixing space for myself. And over the years, I didn't clean it very thoroughly, and I just kept working my way in. So all of my colors have been migrating toward the central mixing area. That's slowed down, maybe even stopped now. What I found was, personally, I didn't use a large mixing area. I don't pre-mix a bunch of different piles of paint. That's part of what forces me to keep the paint alive and unmixed. If I have a pile of paint here and I go through it, even if I have to cover a large area, I'll keep remixing those same colors. Forces me to keep the colors fresh and unmixed. It also forces my mind to thoroughly learn how to mix those colors and match them with the colors on the canvas. So maybe that's why it's gone that route. But yeah, the truth is, this is it. Even on the last painting, the large painting, 4 foot by 6 foot, this was the only mixing area I used. I reserved this little dark area for if I know I'm going to need to reintroduce some dark lines with a brush, say, for example, which is ultramarine blue and raw umber, or burnt umber as I have used a bit. I'll just keep it right in this corner, because that's all it needs. And my colors all go out here. Now, at the end of every day, and I mean that scrupulously, at the end of every day, I scrape all the excess paint off of my mixing area. Then I'll take a piece of this high-tech rag that I have. You might recognize it. And I will wipe it completely clean. Then I'll take a clean piece of this and I will dip it in my turpentine and I'll wipe the area again. And you end up with actually almost a mirror finish here. I make sure that I do that after every day or every painting session even. Because I want this to be smooth. If it's not smooth, it's really hard to control your mixing properties. What else to say about that, really? I know, also, well, okay, there's this as well. Like, for instance, this is Cad Red Medium now. It's getting a little long in the tooth, see? So, because there is a little bit of wet paint there, but I usually scoop up larger bits of it, and in doing so, I will pick up some skin and contaminate my knife strokes or brush strokes too much. I don't like that. I like to keep it clean. So, without digging way into it, because I'm only using a painting knife, I have to go gentle because you don't want to break your knife, and your knife's not strong enough to be too aggressive. But I'll cut off the whole top like that, so that the skin is gone and loose bits are gone. What I've found is that if I were to persist now and keep trying to scrape on this, I wouldn't get it a lot cleaner, but what I would end up doing is creating a lot of tiny tendrils and filaments of skin that would only contaminate the new pile that I'm going to lay on there. I know oil paint's expensive, but you got to be willing to waste some, certainly when you're using a knife. Or any impasto technique, right? Impasto-ish technique. So I'll do that. One of these days, and I know I've said this probably many videos ago already, I am going to take a larger knife. A spoke shave might even be nice. But anyway, and clean off these piles. Maybe not, I don't know. I mean, technically, who cares? As long as I manage to keep them pushed away. A little bit of crowd control for the paint, Keep them, stay back folks, nothing to see here. As long as I'm satisfied with my area here and it doesn't become irritating that the paint piles are encroaching on the the mixing area, which of course I need, but as you can see, I don't need much. It'll probably just stay the way it is. I've got these 3 knives, which are, I've used all 3 of them on the painting that I'm working on, so I just keep them handy. You know, that's another thing about having a large palette with only a small area that you use. You have space to have, you know, to leave those knives there, and then I have a brush here and a brush there, just for if I need it. I want to keep it handy for, you know, reasserting an outline or something. And all the tools that I know that I'm going to need pretty regularly on a specific painting or a specific project, I can keep them all on here. There's enough room. I like this. I really like this. You know, even like if I go out, if I'm plein air painting, I still like to have a palette that's reasonably fixed, even if it's just sitting on a milk crate. You know, I have this one here. Like, look at all the junk on here. This thing is built to slide into a painting box, which I also have actually. But my mixing area is just this, and it's not smooth as glass. I don't take as good a care of it as I do this palette. But if I'm, how do I hold this one? I guess like this. Yeah, I guess like this actually. It's all fine and dandy to have your paints on here, but I regularly and scrupulously wipe my knives off and my brush off. Even if I don't dump it in the turpentine, I keep it so clean. I would have to put the palette down every time, because you need one hand to hold the toilet paper, the other hand to hold the brush or knife, and do this a few times, right? Then you have to put the palette down. So I'm not a big fan of holding your palette in one hand and a brush in the other, and you know, it's to me, I see it as more of a romantic notion and maybe photogenic, but personally, due to really entirely my way of doing things, doesn't work for me. I know it does for many people. Each to his own. Okay, I think that answers. I think that should clear up some things anyway. Yeah. Anything else? You can let me know.